Do 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 do. That stupid Skype ringer, it gets stuck in my brain. Is Stir the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Ryan Peterson. What's up, my man?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Uh, uh, we've been trying to get this together for a little bit. The old technical difficulties kicking our ass, but we've got it all together. And welcome, my friend. Thank you for your time. First off, I appreciate you wanting to come on the show, talk to us, the fans, have some fun.
Absolutely, man. It's truly an honor to be here, man. I've been a fan of yours for a while. I've seen you interview a lot of people. Most recently, a fellow announcing comrade of mine, Mr. Shane Fair himself.
Oh, well, we love us some Shane Fair. I could go on and on about that guy. Uh, well, I appreciate you. First off, I appreciate you watching the material because I always say it's probably just my dad and his dog Jake watching this stuff. So it feels good to see or hear that people are actually watching the material. So I appreciate that, my friend.
Oh, absolutely, man. So, someone who's been in the business for a long time loves seeing people like you trying to, help expand the business further to the fans out there, especially during these tough times of COVID-19. So what you're doing is a major blessing for wrestling fans out there to to stay sane or get away from their daily issues, whatever they're dealing with nowadays. So I
Uh,
appreciate that.
and thank you for those kind words. I love hearing that from somebody that's in the biz because the talent that comes on here, male or female, they have reiterated that over the course of me starting these Skypes, and not just me. Many people have started not only just fans or what have you, but even wrestlers have started podcasts to kind of bide the time while the pandemic was really hitting everybody really hard at the beginning there, and trying to figure out what do we do with our time. I want to be able to connect to my peers and to my friends and my brothers and sisters, so I'm going to start a podcast. So this started off as a face-to-face kind of thing. I just out of the clear blue, sometime before the whole King COVID thing. King COVID, you see what I did? Never mind. Uh, Before we got all whacked out with this virus thing, so I was trying to figure out what the hell am I going to do, because I was being invited to the talents' homes and such, or I would go to a park or meet them someplace else because not everybody wants me at their homes, which I don't blame them. That's fine. But so I had to figure out a way too. How am I going to keep continuing to doing what I was doing? So I started poking around. What can I record? What can I save? What can I upload to YouTube onto my channel? How do I do this? And I just started poking around a little bit, and Skype seemed to be the easiest way to do it, my friend. So getting that reach out to the talent has been nothing uh, but an honor and a privilege for me as a fan, because I get to talk to so much of the talent that not only did I see firsthand, but that I've never met before, and I'm making new connections by doing this. And right here is another one. And I know I'm yammering, but I just love
It's
the
all good,
connection
man.
with all the talent that I've been that we've been making, all the connections, and yourself, because we've never personally met. You know who I am. I know exactly who you are, but we've never really met at any of the events. So why don't you give the fans a little bit of an introduction of what you do in the business?
All right, so my name is Ryan Peterson. I am a announcer on the independent circuit. I'm based out of Long Island, New York, as you can tell by my accent. I have a bunch of promotions underneath my belt. I'm going on 9 years right now. I actually just uploaded. Someone made a resume, like a visual resume of what I've done, and I counted I think 32 promotions, current and past, that I have worked with. But the main top ones I always talk about are Ace Pro Wrestling, which has been my home in New Jersey for the last like 8 years.
Did you say
Titan
ace? Did you say ace like the
Ace.
ace of spades?
Yep, Ace Pro Wrestling. Yep,
Okay.
you got that right. Titan Championship Wrestling, WrestlePro, Creator Pro, WrestlePro Alaska, which obviously we'll get onto later on in this, and also Impact Wrestling. So I have a lot of promotions underneath my belt. Invictus Pro Wrestling is another one, a brand new one that just started up back in September, but glad to be a part of them. Global Syndicate Wrestling that just had their massive event this past weekend, and I work with them behind the scenes. So I have a lot of experience underneath my belt and a lot of traveling a lot of travel. I'll tell you that.
So obviously, A, you're not afraid to do the drives, as they say. B,
At first I was. At first I was, but then I just got used to it after like year two.
yeah, it does take a toll on you,
It
for
does.
sure. Because I mean, I know we spend a lot of time at the events, especially yourselves behind the scenes and getting the show together, the events. Not an easy task, and we talk a lot about that on this show. It takes an
Oh,
army.
nuts.
So uh, in his voice and in his response, we know that it's not an easy task to get these events together. So, A, you're not afraid to do the drives. B, you seem to be more than just an announcer. You're a multi task. You wear many hats, if you will, while you're at the shows. Do you not, sir?
Well, actually, for the most part, yeah, because just to give you guys a little behind the scenes, behind the curtain, as we call it,
Yes.
one of, one of the companies I work with, Victus Pro Wrestling, I helped out with their debut event because the promoter, Alex, I love him to death. He was so stressed, like he didn't, he was trying to get everything working out. And he actually had to do a venue change in the span of 3 weeks before the show because apparently something happened with the old building. I don't know what happened with the building, but we went on to I think we called it like a horse crap filled paintball field.
Okay.
It was literally the back of someone's house, back of someone's farm, and
Okay.
it was interesting and it was fine. I think we all got hay fever, no pun intended, because there was a bunch of hay barrels around. But thank you. But anyway, he was stressed beyond the max, and I just met him like not even like 30 seconds. I offered him, what can I do to help, tell him where to set up and whatnot, because I've been doing a lot of experiences. I've done this with so many promotions, and the fact that I was able to bring that on to his first show, he was like, to this day, you are literally the reason why I respect the hell out of you because you called me down on my debut show. So
That's awesome.
so there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and also there was one other show. God, I think it was about like years ago. I forgot when it was, but I actually had to help rewrite the card.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was back in 2016, and I forgot the name of the company. It was a one-show deal, whatnot. They had about 20 matches on the card. 20.
What?
20 matches. I had to help him condense it to 12. So we had so many fatal four-way tag matches and fatal four-way matches galore. Might as well call our show Fatal Four Way, no pun intended, to the previous pay-per-view they had 10 years ago. Because we had to be out of the building we had to be done in the building by a certain time, and luckily, I don't know how we pulled it off, but we did it. We were done at 10:58, and we started at 7 o'clock.
Wow. Quite
Yeah.
quite the feat. Revamping a show on the fly. Again, not an easy task, my friend.
What makes it even more hard was that I was trying to still somehow get all the storylines that were originally put for the matches into the matches, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
Like we had like somehow a heel and a face that were supposed to go against each other, team up, and then have the heel low blow his own partner, screw him out of the match, or kind of build up the story.
That's what we love around here. We love story, character, obviously in-ring prowess, but I also love long title reigns too. I'm a fan of long title reigns because we either get to get behind our our big hero champion, always defeating evil time after time after time. Or on the flip side, we just want that son of a bitch to lose his belt time after time after time after time. So it gives myself as a fan, I feel, a long title run along with the others, the character, storyline, and in ring. I feel it does something for me as a fan. It gives me something to follow, and it makes me want to come back week after week or month after month if it's an indie show, if you will. And that's my favorite scene of all time. Yeah, we watch the WWEs and the bigger platforms, and we like to see the indie family that we've made relationships and friendships with over the course get signed to those bigger platforms. But the indie scene, that's my cup of tea, my man. I love that stuff because of the intimacy between not only the space when you're at these shows, because you're right there. There's no guardrails at a lot of these shows, and you're just like pretty much a couple body widths from the ring, so you're very close. But if it wasn't for the indie scene, I'd never be making all of these friendships with the talent because they love to give the time to the fans and they're open. They like to have fun on the social media and stuff.
Absolutely.
So I feel personally, I thrive in the indie scene because of those few factors right there. Now, when you're doing shows, I know you've done them in different size venues, being very small to maybe quite large. Do you have a preference? Do you feel any difference or a pressure if it's a bigger venue with more people and maybe a high profile matches or whatnot? Or do you kind of take them all together?
So it's funny that you mentioned, dealing with pressure on different venues, because I've not only do I do wrestling announcing, but I also announce MMA, kickboxing, and boxing events as well. So I'm a multi-sport announcer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
Gotta throw a little curveball in there.
Please, MMA. What company are you doing some work for with the MMA?
So there's a couple of companies I'm working with. One is in New York. Actually, sorry, two of them are in New York. It's called Aggressive Combat Championships, which is based out of Westchester County. USKBA, which is the U.S. Kickboxing Association, and NAGA, the North American Grappling Association, who also has a dual joint partnership. It's the same company, but it's the same different. This is their MMA side called Reality Fighting, based out of Connecticut, aka Mohegan Sun.
I have heard of Reality Fighting. That I have heard of.
Yep, I've been announcing for them for the last 3 years now.
Oh wow! Oh, that's pretty cool. I've talked to Mr. Falvo, Mike Falvo. I'm sure you're familiar with Mr. Falvo. I like to call him Flavo.
Flavo. What's funny is that me and Flavo, we talk a lot. we talk a lot online and whatnot. And this past weekend, we finally got to meet in person. It was finally. So at that Global Syndicate Wrestling event. So.
Yeah. I see. That's correct. Yes. You guys were sitting side by side doing commentary. Were you not?
Oh no, that wasn't me. That was another announcing colleague of mine named AJ Orsini.
Oh, okay.
Great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know some Mr. Orsini. I do know of him. Mr. Flavo. Don't call him Mr. Flavo. He will get so heated. Woo! Good times. Now, the reason why I bring him up, another multifaceted ring announcer, if you will, because I met him as the GM of Survival Championship Wrestling in Rensselaer, New York. They've only had one show. They were trying to make a return, but it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. Then the COVID, and then the COVID hit. So they're trying to make their way back, and we'll see what happens with that. But that's how I met Mr. Falvo. So being multifaceted, though, do you feel that's very challenging instead of maybe sticking with one type of sport or one niche, if you will?
So when I first got into MMA announcing, it was back in 2016. That's when I started doing the dual sports and whatnot. And at the beginning, it was very tough because I'm so used to the wrestling crowd, the wrestling, how to announce that, but never really never knew how to announce for MMA. So in the weeks leading up to my first event, I actually was like on YouTube, online, even watching like all the MMA fights, just like doing some research of how to properly, announce the winners, especially when it comes to the winners. That can make or kill you, make you or kill you. I'll tell you that. There was one event. There was one event. I believe it was in. What the hell?
Do you have aliens attacking your technology over there?
I don't know. This is really odd.
Is the camera
Seriously,
is the camera like flipping out on you right now?
yeah, I think so. Hold on. I think I got it to finally work again. I don't know what that was about. That was really weird. So anyway, so back to what I was saying. Um, I was doing some research on how to, especially, yeah, okay. There was one event I did up in Albany. And I mean, actually, it's funny enough, it's the same company that Mike Salvo announces for Cage Wars. Before he came in, I did one show up there, and I announced the fight, just how it says in the card. But the crowd was not into it, and actually, we had like empty water bottles and cups thrown into the cage because they didn't like the decision.
Oh, wow. Uh, that that's not so fun, especially being an announcer. You're just doing your job and you're getting shit thrown at you. That's not nice.
Oh, trust me, it's not fun. The MMA crowds are more brutal than wrestling crowds, in my opinion.
uh, now
But I
I
love, but I
speak of
love it though.
oh, absolutely. You wouldn't change a minute of it because you
Absolutely
gain
not.
these experiences every single event, no matter what sport you're dealing with. And you take all of those experiences, you combine them all, you learn from each of them. You present yourself maybe a little bit differently the next time or what have you, and you just gain these experiences. Not only that, though, like we talk on the show, we gain memories from each single event. You take something away specifically, at least one specific thing from each event that you usually walk away with. May it be fans, may it be the athletes, may it be an experience you had in the back. There's always something to take home with you. Um, we
And,
talk a lot
and
of.
actually, and actually, I'm sorry to cut you off. Since you mentioned experience, my first ever MMA show. If you're not familiar with the name, you will. Uh, One of the fighters, it was John Gotti Jr.
Oh
of the
wow,
Gotti mob family. It was the son,
wow.
and I could tell that it was him because he's the only person in the locker room who had like 3 or 4 like buff security guards around him. I kid you not. But
Wow.
and everyone said, and when everyone mentions Gotti, they always assume, oh, Gotti's gonna be a badass. He's gonna be mean and whatnot. But totally, he's really a nice guy. I'm not gonna lie.
That's cool. Now you've mentioned some fine promotions, and that's what we like on the show. We want to hear about new talent, so we can look them up and follow them and be part of their, and spread their love. And we also like to find out new promotions as well. Same thing. Look them up on the YouTube and the Facebook and all of that good stuff. So we get to network and meet new talent and such, and get to see new promotions. Maybe we didn't know of one. Like there's some guys that I know out of New York. They never heard of Test Your Strength. Bam, somebody ran into it on Facebook. They came down to Connecticut, checked out Test Your Strength. They had a blast. They want to make a return. So, I mean, you just never know. But we do talk a lot about fans on this show because this show is for the fans. It's not my show. It's our show. I'm just a jackass pushing the record button and then hitting the stop button. So this is our show. And the fans' connection with the talent is something that is very obviously missed right now with everything going on. But the relationship that is, it's a dance if you will. There's a specific show that I'm going to pick out, and correct me if I'm wrong because I have a very sketchy brain. Okay, uh, ACW, American Coliseum Wrestling, right? American Coliseum Wrestling. That is correct, right?
Yep.
You've done some work for them, if I'm not mistaken. Were you not at this beautiful Palisades Mall where they had this show?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. I was there.
Uh,
I can't believe it's. And I just looked. I just thought of it. It actually was almost a year ago that
Yep.
that show happened. I can't believe it's been almost a year. But I did that show at the Palisades Mall, or as everyone in the locker room called it, we did our own version of Monday Night Nitro.
Absolutely, because I've painted the picture a few times on this show with different talent that has been on that show. I've spoken to Ray Pittman. He's been on. There's been other talents that were on that show that I've spoken with. Karen Bam Bam. Love Karen Bam Bam.
Oh, I love Karen.
I've talked about that specific show, but whenever I penciled your name in, set the date, set the time, the very first thing that came to my mind, again, because we've never met, was ACW, because that was actually the first time that I've seen you live. And now I wanted to go over that show a little bit with you because you were firsthand there, part of the action, part of the ambiance. And I just want to set the scene real quick, okay?
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
I live in Connecticut. I have a friend that lives in Massachusetts. I went to her way, picked her up. We finished the route, if you will. We get out, and of course, you know me. If I got my phone, it's always at the ready, especially at a wrestling event. I will hit record on anything, and you do know that. I'll hit record on anybody, anything, and my sister Laura C says, "Hey, Donkey Gabe, there's a piece of meat, a random piece of meat on the sidewalk." So this is the first time I've ever been at the Palisades Mall or Center, whatever it's called there. And I whip up my phone. I start cutting a promo on a random piece of meat on the sidewalk. So we that was the beginning before we even walked into the door of that fantastic setting over at the Palisades Mall. And let me tell you, from that recording, that promo of the meat, walking through the door, finding where we were, where the wrestling was, and I'm telling you, Mr. Peterson, that was one of my all-time favorite shows ever. Just because that setting, now this mall, it's not like just some one-level mall that you normally would go to, because that's kind of the way it is nowadays. This thing is 4 floors high, and where the ring was dead center under this huge square, okay? And it was a gigantic skylight. And when I mean skylight, I undersell this thing. But the way it was built, and the ring is at the bottom of this, and every single floor just had people surrounding it, and the floor was jam-packed all around the ring with seating and standing. My friend, just talking about that, I'm getting goosebumps right here. I love that setting. And not only that, there was a band on the side. There was a stage set up, and you guys had a band. So that Monday Night Nitro ambiance, that feel, I've talked so much about it already. Please take over. Give us some of your thoughts during that day.
So when I first pulled up to the mall, I was trying to think where exactly to go, because I don't think I was told where which part of the mall it was in. But I made it to the right section, thank God, because like Don was saying, this mall is not like a standard one level mall, like a little strip mall. This thing is 4 floors. Imagine if the Mall of America somehow had a twin in New York. That's how big it is. Because apparently on the opposite side, from what I remember, they have a huge Ferris wheel inside, a massive movie theater, the whole 9 yards. It's huge. And we were on one side of the mall, and I thought, I walk in, I'm like, okay, where is the locker room and everything? Like, where, for going show mode, okay, where is the locker room? Where is the ring? All of a sudden, I see the ring straight ahead. I'm like, oh, thank God I found the ring. And like Don was saying, there was a stage there for the band to perform, which they performed while a battle royal was happening during the concert. And then as the show went on, more people started coming, and it was a great, an awesome experience. My first time ever doing something like that extravagant, and I've been, in big arenas and whatnot. I think they even said at one point, 4,000 people actually stopped and watched the show.
Yeah, there was quite the head count just hanging out. And not only were they hanging out, because I kept checking out the scene because I was in such awe throughout the entire show. And I know not all the same people stood there for the entire event, but my friend, those railings were never empty. They were always filled, all 4 floors high. And I was like, this is something very special. Just the setting and the way everybody just kind of awestruck at what was going on. I just loved it, man. It was really, really cool. And not only that, you mentioned the locker room. Could you please tell? I love this part. Could you please tell the fans where was the locker room?
So, from what I remember, the locker room was in like some sort of like abandoned store.
Yes. Yes, it was. Because if you're walking down a mall, nowadays especially, you're going to see a lot of stores that are closed with either no windows, or they're kind of all papered up and such or whatever, or there's like some cool mural painted or something like that on the windows. And that's exactly what this setting was. You're walking down the mall. And this thing, let me put this out there, though. This mall was very active. There was a lot of open stores, and it wasn't like a lot of these malls that are just barely hanging on. This thing was thriving. A lot of people were there. Things were happening, and a lot of stores were open, but you're walking down the aisle, like Mr. Peterson says, you run into the ring. You're like, oh, my God, we found it. Thank you. But then you keep walking down a little bit ways, and on the right-hand side is one of those closed stores. You open up the door, and son of a bitch, that's the talent's locker room. Because I know some of the talent, and whenever we were chit-chatting by the side, and I see them walking in there, I go, wait a minute, that's your locker? And they just start laughing. They're like, yeah, right. And I go, holy cow, this is so cool.
I'm not gonna lie though, it was pretty spacious. I'll tell you that. That's actually like one of the biggest spacious locker rooms I've ever been in. And also, a funny thing about that day, which I'm sure either you're probably gonna bring up or maybe you forgot. Let's just say during one of the matches, they actually got so hot the fire alarm went off.
And did you notice? I did not forget about that, and I'm so glad you brought that up.
Oh my God.
Because we were both there. Did you notice, though, Mr. Peterson? We were there for wrestling. That fire alarm is just going weep, weep, weep. We're all looking around like, is this a legit alarm? It was, I think, at one point. But did you see everybody that was at the wrestling event? Not a single one of us moved. I looked at my friend Laura and I go, we're all going to fucking burn. We're not moving because wrestling's happening. Who cares? Let the place go. Hey, until it gets too close, we're going to stay right here.
Well, what I thought was even funnier was that, like you said, nobody was leaving. Nobody was leaving. The people that were shopping in the malls, they were shopping, not watching us, they were leaving. But also you just see us, everyone just sitting there. Oh, great wrestling, yeah, let's go. And it's funny because I remember that match too. It was it had Riley Shepard in the match. It was Riley Shepard's match.
Yeah.
So afterwards, I went into the locker room, and there was already cracking jokes already on Riley. By the way, if she's watching this, Riley, I love you to death. Someone said like, man, you generated so much heat in that ring. And she's like, I guess so. Maybe it's the gear. I don't know. Overall, it was a great experience, and like you said, the mall was active or whatnot. You got to realize this was 2 weeks before the pandemic even started. This was literally pre-COVID. 2 weeks, and it was booming.
Yeah, it definitely was. And we were there for wrestling. Again, if the mall's gonna burn, have at it. The firemen will be here before it gets to us, hopefully. But if it gets to us, then we'll move because we were there for wrestling. Man, what a fantastic time that was. I will never. And I've shared stuff from that show, be full matches I have on my YouTube channel, or just pictures, or little promos or stuff. Man, great time. I can't wait to. Please, Assault Champ. Almost made a Freudian slip. American Coliseum Wrestling. Please come back to the Palisades when we get some kind of normalcy and we're allowed to do those things. That was absolutely fantastic. It really was.
Absolutely, and I would love to do a mall show again, as they call
it. Yeah, that was really cool. Excuse me, sir. Now, you do plenty of announcing, and as we've spoken, behind the scenes, but I want to pull a little Jenga piece, being called Invictus Wrestling, because they're brand new on the scene, for the most part, because I have had the owner, Alex, on here. We had a fine conversation. It was very nice meeting, and this is how I met him, just as we are meeting now, and we had a fine conversation. But I bring that up because obviously you are a part of that. You spoke about giving a helping hand behind the scenes and getting the event, taking some of that stress off of poor Alex, and getting the show off the road, if you will, and having some fun. But not only that, though, you do this thing on YouTube that's called Power Hour. Could you please explain to us what that is and where can we find that?
So actually, I don't do the Power Hour actually, but I can gladly tell you what they do though. It's the same concept. It's the same concept like this, in the same concept, podcast and whatnot. And it's Alex, Nick, and another person named Ryan, not me. Another person named Ryan Gross. It's all right. It's okay. It's all right. You're not fired. What they do is every week they bring in a talent from Invictus Pro Wrestling. They bring them on and they have a simple conversation like this.
Nice.
I was a guest on it recently around Super Bowl weekend. They had Nick Stapp on there, Leroy Green, Mucho Chris Mojo, Gio Galvano. The list goes on and on and on. Actually, I still think to this day, I think Alex said I had the longest duration of the podcast, which was about, I think, a little over 2 hours, I think. Yeah.
Wow. I've done 2 interviews over that 2-hour mark. One was at 2:10, but one was specifically, that always stands out for me, is 2.5 hours. Do you know who Dan? Oh, never mind. He'll shoot me for even saying such. You know who Dan the Man is.
Yes, I do. I know Dan the Man. Not only was he on the show with me at ACW at the Palisades, defending that Test of Strength championship, by the way. Mm-hmm. Little cheap plug there. But also, I've known him for a while. Working up and down, the tri-state area, mostly in Jersey. So I know of him. I know who, and especially with his. I don't know if it's still active anymore, but Team Shazam, which was him, Kenny Bangle, and Corey Dillinger.
It's expanded. There's different members. There's been a thing about Team Shazam being okay. We at Test of Strength, we say Team Shazam is not okay, and the Heat want to talk about being triggered. Wow. There's also been additions of like an Ann Bivens. There's been a Marcel Williams, Showtime Marcel Williams. There's been a Talia Jeanette, if you will, or Janet. She's gonna hurt me. She carries a lead pipe. Scary.
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah.
Make up. I have prayer beads over there if you want some. I have all the prayer beads and the holy water by me if you want it.
Thank you. Now, Dan the Man, I forgot why I was bringing him up because he's 2.5 hours. Okay. He decides, because I reached out, we talked to parents fee. I had to negotiate with this guy. Very hard bargaining. Hard bargain this guy was. I got to tell you, not a fair price. But when I hit the record button, uh, it wasn't him, Mr. Peterson. It was. Are you aware of Dave Cole from the New England scene at all?
No, I'm so. I kind of know a little bit of the New England scene, mostly Test of Strength, Northeast Wrestling, and obviously Chaotic and Beyond and Limitless.
Okay.
But just like little by little, because that's like one of my goals in my career is to somehow transition into the New England area. Because I know there's a couple of announcers up there that I have nothing but love and respect for. One of them is obviously a legend up there, Rich Palladino.
Mm-hmm.
And also Matt DeCourt, who also does Paradise Alley.
We love both of them, gentlemen, definitely. So where I'm driving at with this is Dave Cole. He's an artiste. He does some art and whatnot, but he makes Funko Pop dolls, and he makes the likenesses custom made. You want one of Mr. Peterson? When you get yours, it's going to look just like you. I shit you not. He's amazing.
Wow.
But when I hit the record button, Mr. Peterson, instead of talking to Dan the man, I talked to a stupid ass plastic Funko Pop doll, if that's what you call them, for 2.5 hours.
Oh my god, my goodness.
Hey, it pains me just to speak about it. And I had to pay him. So I mean, that's a bunch of BS. But the Invictus, new on the scene, getting some fine talent. A lot of familiar faces that I do know, but also from faces that I don't know. And you've already named some of them that I'm not familiar with, that I'm starting to learn about a little bit here and there. Seeing them on a couple other podcasts, guys that I know that are having them on their shows and whatnot. So props to Invictus, because they started up kind of when the pandemic started. And I asked Alex, I go, "You're a loony bin. Why would you do such a thing?" So I give them props for persevering through what we've gone through and getting Invictus off the ground and really having some good times over there with some great talent. So all the success to Invictus.
Yeah, we've already had 2 events already. One in September, one in November, and both of them were very successful. The first one, despite the venue change and whatnot, they did I think a little over 100. And the second one, which was in Flemington, no venue change, and we had a little over 200. Of course, everyone was spread out and safe, that, because that's the new normal for now. Everyone making sure everyone's safe, but they drew pretty well. And the main event of that show was the Greek God Papadon against Impact star Ace Austin.
Oh wow! Not fine main event. That sounds. Now
it was.
You guys at Invictus, when you're seeing an influx from one show to another of fan numbers, you guys got to be like, yes, this is cool, man. We're doing something right, because we came out, we debuted, but now we're seeing an influx in the numbers. We did something right that first show, and it's showing with the return, not only the return of some fans that you were seeing at the previous show, but more new faces coming in and checking the product out. So that's got to make you guys really stoked.
What made the last show a little more successful was we did it at a multi-sport like hockey rink and indoor sporting center. So the building was the building was helpful in promoting it, and it worked out well more because on that day we had a bunch of youth hockey games going on. So actually after one of their games, the youth hockey team actually came over and watched a little bit of the show.
Yeah.
Which they came in at a good time, because I remember the match so well. It was a suicide six-way. It had Brother Greatness, Smiley, Andy Abs. I'm trying to remember who it was. Casey Navarro was in the match, and I forgot. Oh, Big Game Leroy, and I'm so lost at who the last one was. But it was a massive suicidal six-way cruiserweight if you had Andy Abs into the mix. But it was a great match, and just watching the reaction going oh wow. That's what I love about wrestling, is watching the fans, especially the younger fans, enjoying themselves and having an awesome time. And I always tell promoters, including Alex, that if you see that you're running one hell of a show.
Mm-hmm. Because we speak a lot, again, we speak a lot about that as well on this show. Is when that talent comes through the curtain, they have to give us, the fans, some kind of signals. Do we boo you? Do we cheer you? You have to let us know, especially if we aren't familiar with your character or yourself, because we're always meeting new wrestlers. Because companies don't want the same exact faces show in and show out, so you bring in new talent. And if we don't know who you are, and you come through that curtain and you don't give us these signals, bring your character alive once that music hits, once you come through that curtain, we don't know what the hell to do. So we just kind of sit there and look at you walking down to the ring. You may get a golf clap, you may get a who's this guy, you may get a, whatever. But as long as you're giving us some signals that we can work off of, we get that interaction going. And like you're saying, seeing it from a distance, being part of the show, being part of the company, though, it's just got to be really cool. Like you're saying, the younger fans, because that's what wrestling has always been geared for, is that younger crowd. Some of it has been lost over time, but not all of it. So when I see a group of kids, I go to a Kevin Landry's Combine up in Holyoke, Mass. They have free shows they were doing once a month called Shut Up and Wrestle. And, families are coming. They're bringing their children. And there's a section over there where there's, some heavy bags and whatnot away from the ring and stuff, because there's workout equipment. So nobody's allowed to this part of the building while you're at the show. But over to this side, there's an area, and the kids are all running around, having some good times, and their parents are seeing this. They're having fun at the shows. And I mean, that's the stuff right there, like you speak of. That's what wrestling's all about, my friend. And I know I have a great time, but it's not for us jackass 50-year-olds who want to chant holy F, and all of that. Do we have fun? Absolutely. But it's definitely geared for that younger crowd. And I'm so glad to see that some of it is still alive,
And that's what we try to do every single time we get out there, from start to end.
Now, when you're doing the behind the scenes, working, getting there a little bit early with the boys and girls, getting that ring together, setting up the seats, and getting what it takes to make it happen, is Mr. Peterson running around crazy pre-event? Like, say you wake up in the morning, can you sleep the night before, first off? And second off, when you're involved like that, there's a different stress level than maybe just going to the event and being an announcer and having one hat. But when you wear multiple hats, do you feel that the pressure is on, and are you a little stressed pre-event?
So luckily, I don't have like the massive stress that a lot of the promoters do have or whatnot. My only stress is if it's like a new promotion. I get well. First of all, to answer your first question, yes, I do sleep at night. I'll tell you that. I do sleep the day before, because I've gotten so accustomed to it all this time. And if it's a new promotion that I've never worked before, I always get there a little bit earlier than call time. That way, I'm assuming most of the locker room is already there. That way, and one thing I always ask for the promoters, they always ask me they always give it to me ahead of time. I always ask for the cards ahead of time. That way I can prepare the notes on my end. That way, instead of the day of, instead of me running around, writing everything down, the only things I have to write down, besides obviously the names are already filled out, but the only thing I have to write out is either their weights, hometowns, and moniker, like Dan Demand representing Team Shazam, that simple stuff. That way, it's a little less stressful when they give me the card ahead of time. Mm. And of course, every show there's always the little pre-show jitters that everybody gets through. Mm. I've been doing this for 9 years, and still to this day, I still get pre-show jitters and whatnot. But once I get through that curtain, it's a little bit of a adrenaline rush, and it just goes away.
I correlate music and wrestling very similar to each other, and that's one of the things that's very, very similar. Because I would set up sound, get all the PA set up. I was, the booker, the web guy, the poster guy. There's always like one guy in a band that does kind of the heavy of most of the stuff. And I happen to be that guy. So setting it all up, getting it all ready, doing a sound check. My man, before those lights come on and you start jamming that first song, I'm freaking out. I'm nervous every single time. I did it, for many years previous working up to it, but I was in a band for like 6 solid years doing all of the 80s hair shit, Whitesnake, Rat, Poison, Motley Crue, Sister, you name it. So we would open up with something similar at every show because it just seemed to get us comfortable. It got us in a groove, and it's something easy where it's very familiar and danceable. And we would come out, I would get on the microphone, and we would chug on F sharp, if you will. And I would introduce us a little bit. And I would say, boys or girls, get ready. Guys, hold on to your girls. Girls, hold on to your guys. Grab some drinks, get hammered, whatever shtick you got going on. And I'll count it off. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. As soon as we jam into "You've Got Another Thing Coming," that first chord, see, I'm talking about it right now, my man. My arms are a chill. As soon as we hit that first Jan, 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 it all goes away. I don't know what it is, how it is. It just goes away. But walking through that curtain.
It's adrenaline, man. That's what it is. The adrenaline takes over.
Good times. Good bleeping times. Let me say that. A little stressful on my end because of all the hats I wore. But in the long run, by the end of the evening, all worth it. Great times. Wouldn't change a damn minute of it. Excuse me. Now, as an announcer, many other announcers. Is there like a clique in the announcing community, if you will?
I wouldn't call it a clique per se. I would call it like a brotherhood or a sisterhood because there are female announcers out there. Well, let's just say like we're one big dysfunctional announcing family. That's what it is. Because I know. Because, like I said, there's a bunch of male announcers, but there's also female announcers as well. So obviously, if you say brotherhood, then the people are like, well, what about the women on the side? It's we're all equal. We're all equal. We all love announcing, and we all love and respect each other. That is the ideal.
Now, getting to know Mr. Peterson, wrestling. Where does this come from? Because my pop got me into it when I was a little Kincaid, if you will, way back in, let's see, 75, showing my age. And my pop got me into it, started, seeing it on TV, but a few years went by. You only remember a little bit when you're that young. But when I was about 8, my pop took me to Bristol Central High School, and we saw the likes of Bob Backlund defending his championship against Cowboy Bob Orton. We saw Tito Santana and Ivan Putski going up against the Wild Samoans with Captain Lou. And there's so many old school names. That was my very first live event, and it really, really hooked me. Where does wrestling fit into your life? How did it come to you?
So I grew up in a single parent home. When my parents were divorced when I was, I think, like 15 or 16 months old. I was young. I'm very baby. And my dad loves wrestling all the time. And I never really got into it because I was living with my mother. But on occasion, I would check out. This was like going back in 97, 98. That was like the Attitude Era. I would watch it, but I never really understood it and whatnot. But then my first ever event, my mother actually surprised me because I live on Long Island, and this was 2002. And my first ever live event was SummerSlam 2002, or as they call it, the greatest SummerSlam of all time.
Wow!
And on that card, I saw a huge load of talent on there. It was Brock Lesnar just when he just got started against The Rock. Eddie Guerrero was on the show against Edge. Rey Mysterio against Kurt Angle. Biker Taker against Test. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, who just got back from 4 years of injury. That was my first ever live event, and I was hooked on ever since. And I, started watching wrestling more and more and more. And then 2007, I was flipping through my TV, and all of a sudden I see, I recognize a bunch of names. I recognize Kurt Angle and Kevin Nash on the show, but I'm like, wait a minute, This isn't WWE. What is this? That's when I first got hooked to TNA. And then as time progressed and whatnot, then 2010, I never knew this. I just started college, and I had a couple of friends of mine from my high school who graduated a couple of years ahead of me told me like, hey, you want to come to a place in Deer Park, watch us wrestle? I'm thinking it's like WWE coming to Deer Park because I knew nothing of the indie scene at that time.
Okay.
So I went to the show. It was like a small warehouse in a industrial park, and
did you cry? Did you cry when you get to this place? You're like, wait, what the fuck is this?
I didn't cry, but I said, okay, this is different. It was NYWC, the New York Wrestling Connection in Deer Park.
Oh, I've been there, yeah.
Yeah, and first time going there, I was like, oh, okay, I'm hooked, and I started, knowing the people more and more with, in the locker room behind the curtain, and then I started going to another promotion out east in Shirley, New York, called East Coast Professional Wrestling. They do shows in Jersey, but back then they also did shows on the island.
Okay.
And just like as usual, I tried, doing the whole thing of, getting to know everyone, becoming friends with them. And I was just a nobody at the time. And then I did the one thing that I think everybody wanted to do, and that was try to wrestle. One of the wrestlers had a school out there. I used the term school because it was really a ring in his backyard in a big tent.
Okay.
But it was a nice ring, though. It was a nice ring. And I'm not going to lie, I sucked. The wrestling move was not for me. So, June 2012, I did a seminar with Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart, WWE Hall of Famer. I said to him, Mr. Hart, I would love to partake in the training matches. Because for those who don't know, after they do the training seminars and whatnot, there's always like little impromptu matches that happen in between the wrestlers. Okay, you're going to go against that, and after each match, the guest will critique your matches, good or bad or whatnot, and any like little nitpicks. So I said to him, I like to, partake, but I'm not a wrestler. What can I do? And my worst Jimmy Hart impression, why don't you try ref in a match? I'm like, okay. So I tried ref in a match, and again, I sucked. So now on to plan. I guess this is plan C now. The building had a microphone system. He handed me the microphone, and I did what I normally did because at the time in college, I was a internet radio DJ. That's why I got familiar with being on the microphone. Okay. And I did it, and he actually took off his sunglasses, and afterwards he pulled me aside saying, son, that's the first time in a long time that anyone has ever maybe take off my glasses in shock and awe. That is your calling. Those 4 words stuck with me, and then 2 months later, I finally debuted my announcing in August 2012, and it was at a bingo hall in Shirley, New York, and in front of 300 people. In the main event was a steel cage. Funny thing about all this, up to that moment, I hated public speaking. Like if you remember back in school and say, okay, Ryan, come up in front of the class, read your report in front of the class. I hated doing that. And literally in the back of the locker room, I wish there was footage of this, but in the locker room, I'm walking back and forth like someone described me. I'm walking back and forth like Dustin Hoffman from Rain Man. Because I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. But just like I said a little bit ago, once I pop out of the curtain, the adrenaline went away. And I think 9 years later, I think I made a good choice, sticking with it 9 years later.
Yeah, very good choice. Now, I've talked to some ring announcers. Do you keep all the cards from the events that you make? And, I did this and I did that, or, hey, I remember this date or this event or whatever. Do you keep stuff as keep things?
So cards wise, no. Unfortunately, I don't keep that because if I did, I would literally probably have like an entire closet worth of it. However, just hopefully I can find it. My apologies for this. I'm trying to find. A
No,
little bit of.
that's
Oh, come on! I thought I had it. I thought I had it nearby. All right. Anyway, I'll tell you what it is. So,
okay.
WrestleMania. That's right. WrestleMania weekend 2019, when it was here in the tri-state area, I had the opportunity to announce the Impact Wrestling event that was going on that Thursday before Mania. And somewhere here, it's here somewhere. I actually have the rundown script
Oh,
from the show itself.
oh, awesome.
They let me keep the rundown script that I was using for reference of myself as a memento.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Now, out of that specific event, doing work for Impact, is there something specific? Because I know there was a lot going on that specific day. Is there something specific you could pull out and tell us, the fans, what really, when you stood back, you're like, man, that was awesome. I mean, obviously the whole thing in a whole, I would think, but any one specific thing?
Just the fact that, well, besides that day, it led to more opportunities because I got more opportunities with Impact because I got to work multiple TV tapings when they were here in the tri-state area, and actually one of those tapings led into a weekend with House of Hardcore, so that was another promotion I put up. But the one thing about getting that call to finally work Impact on WrestleMania weekend, obviously every wrestler, every announcer's bucket list item has two things: work a show WrestleMania weekend and work for a major wrestling promotion. And I got to cross both of them off on the same day. So just like kicking in was like, wow, I'm working WrestleMania week. I think I was more excited I was working WrestleMania weekend than Impact Wrestling in general.
uh, Fine goals to be set. That's awesome, man. Congrats to you on that. That's very
Thank
cool.
you. And unfortunately I had more dates lined up with Impact, but unfortunately COVID happened.
Mm.
But
Now,
but eventually, things will slowly get back to normal. So
being in the game for 9 years to this point, do you find yourself reaching out more to promoters, or are promoters reaching out to you? Is it a mixed bag? How has that been working for you?
it's a mix, but it's mostly me reaching out to them
Okay.
because like some of these new promoters, they probably don't know who I am from a hole in a wall. So I introduce myself professionally, of course, because that's what I am, professional, or I try to be. And now that I have this, digital resume, it helps lead into more.
Mm.
Like I'm actually gonna make a little announcement on here. I actually just got a book it. I just got a excuse me. As from this moment, I'm actually official with a brand new company that's going to be in Jersey called Upper Limit Wrestling.
Oh, I'm following Upper Limit Wrestling.
Yep.
Oh, congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. I reached out to the promoter yesterday. We discussed the details. It was very quick. It was like 30 seconds. Bing, bang, boom, done.
Those are the good ones. Those are the good meetings right there, right?
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, I am the official voice of Upper Limit Wrestling, and also another new promotion. Unfortunately, it was supposed to happen this weekend, which I think I saw you react to something on there. Colossal Championship Wrestling in Atlantic City.
Yep, yep. Now, what happened there? If could you speak on that or no?
So there was a, let's just say for legal reasons, it was beyond their control. I really can't speak on that behind legal reasons, but I do have some good news about it though. They're looking. The show's not canceled. It's being postponed. Thank God. And they're looking to book in either April. April at the Showboat. So everybody, mark that in your calendar. Keep an eye on Colossal Championship Wrestling in Atlantic City in the month of April.
Awesome, because when an event either, because we just assume, when an event kind of gets pushed to the side, we always think it's canceled. But good news that it's not being canceled and just postponed to a later date. So is it going to be the same name? The event that was supposed to just happen, is it going to be the same name leading into that April date?
Oh yeah, I think everything's gonna be the
Okay.
same title. I believe the same talent is gonna be there as well.
Okay.
But you gotta follow Colossal Championship Wrestling to stay in touch and
Uh,
whatnot.
Absolutely. Now, we've been talking for a solid hour, and it feels like about 10 minutes. The
I
conversation
know.
we've had has been very fluid and very comfortable. That's the way we like it on here. Just a couple of friends hanging out, talking wrestling, my friend. Uh,
Absolutely.
this has been really cool, and it went by so quickly. Now, we've talked so many different promotions. Now, this is to the boys and girls that are watching. We've talked so many promotions. We've talked so many different talents that Mr. Peterson has brought to our attention. Some I knew, some I don't know. If you don't know any of these promotions, get on the old face page and the Insta and the Twitter and the YouTubes and stuff. Go check out their product. Hit the old subscribe, hit the follows and stuff. When you hear a promotion pop up, just type in, uh, American Coliseum Wrestling. Check it out, see what it's all about and such. And again, all of the promotions Mr. Peterson spoke of and the talents. Now, Mr. Peterson, uh, some guys and girls are comfortable being on that independent scene because they have a lot going on in their lives. They have families and such. There's a small majority in that comfortability with the independent scene. But for the most part, the talent that I speak to, the WWE is pretty much that's the end goal. That's the end game. We want to get to that bigger platform, the juggernaut, if you will, being WWE. Just very recently, we're seeing the biggest class ever signed to the NXT Performance Center, and we see so many familiar names on that class
Mm-hmm.
alone. And I'm just going to pull out one guy, Christian Casanova. The love that guy has gotten on his page, just his Facebook page alone, never mind his Twitter and Insta, because I follow all of them. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, those are the things that we love to see, is seeing the familiar faces being signed to a bigger platform. And I know I come a long way about asking this question, but where does Ryan Peterson sit in this whole ball of wax of wrestling? Are you comfortable in the indie scene? Or are you looking for the big game there?
Oh, I'm absolutely looking for the big game, but not just WWE though. Any major because everyone says WWE, but there are other major promotions out there. You got AEW right now that's doing the smart thing of bringing in indie talent that a lot of us know and a lot of us don't know. But if they get recognized the right way, they get contracts. Impact Wrestling, the same thing. And then also with me announcing multiple sports, who knows? I could somehow maybe go into the UFC, take over Bruce Buffer's job once he leaves or whatnot.
You never know.
You never know. So as long as I make it to somewhere like a major promotion level, then I know for a fact that I made it.
Mm.
And it's
That's
funny
great
that
to
you
hear.
mentioned. And it's funny that you
Go
mentioned
ahead.
Christian Casanova. A lot of familiar names I know on there as well. Blake Christian, Priscilla Kelly, Taya Valkyrie, Carissa Rivera, and the list goes on and on. And they actually said that this class has the most female talent in its history, which I think is 10 women, I think, which is great because I think the women's division is slacking. That's just another story.
Yeah, because I'm going through the talent that was signed. They had all of their pictures, and I'm like, wow, look at all of the female talent that they've just signed, all in one shot. Anthony Henry is part of that class as
Anthony
well.
Henry, that's another one too. He's been in the game for I think 15 years at least, and also
Yeah,
Harlem Bravado, one half of the Bravado brothers.
yeah, absolutely. So we love seeing those. Look at me, Mercedes Martinez. I'm gonna just kind of pull out for a quick second. She's been in the game for now,
Mm.
like 20 years. She's out of the Waterbury area,
Mm-hmm.
and well, actually, she's built from the Brass City. Don't say Water. She's built from the Brass City. Now, Miss Martinez, she was doing her thing grinding and doing it and grinding and doing it for like 19 years before she got picked up. So you just never know. And if you're ready, you're ready. You know, so I mean, you just never know when you're going to get that call up. So we
And
applaud.
also the fact, that she's been in, I think, one Royal Rumble match, and recently been on Takeover for a women's title match.
Yeah, yeah. You just never know when your call up is. There's so many fine talent that we get to see on a regular basis on the independent scene, and man, when they get pushed up, we just love that. And we hope that Uncle Vince and company don't mess it up, mush it up too much a little, because they're known to maybe take all of that creative away and do funky stuff with their talent. I mean, I know they're billionaires, and I'm not. I mean, I work at a pizza joint, so I'm not one to talk.
Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
I'm not one.
I'm hearing weird voices. I heard a weird voice. What you say? Who said that? I heard that from again. Anyway.
So I'm not one to tell them how to run their business, if you will. But before I do let you go, my friend, because we've had a fine conversation. I know I've only started to get to know one Ryan Peterson. So what I'd like to do is put an invite. Maybe we could do a follow-up in maybe a few more months. See what Mr. Peterson's got going on. Has he gotten any other new promotions under his belt? What's been going on? Because I know Invictus is coming up in Bloom. You've got that coming up and many other things that are under your belt. So maybe we could do a follow-up in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I forgot to mention this a while ago. WrestlePro Alaska. You heard that correctly. Alaska.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that back up. I'm sorry.
No, that was my fault because we got sidetracked. So December 2019, I had the opportunity to go out to Anchorage, Alaska, to do their second event at the Sullivan Arena. Great show from start to finish. And before you ask, yes, we had fans there. We had about maybe 1,200 fans there, which is great.
Yeah.
And they asked me to be a part of the next date, which was in May. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, there were so many issues with that. It was originally supposed to be May 9th in Anchorage, and then they bumped the venues to a different venue, and then they bumped the date from May to September, and then 5 weeks before the event, they took the event in Anchorage and they moved it to Wasilla, which is about 45 minutes away from there. So they had so many issues, but as the title of the show said, the show must go on. And what made it even better was we actually did two cities. We did Soldotna the night before and Wasilla. Soldotna, we had about 400 people there watching. And what made it even more comfortable for me was that it was a combination of wrestling and kickboxing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had a few kickboxing matches on the show, mixed in with some wrestling as well. So some of the guys in the locker room were like, do you know how to announce the winners in kickboxing? I'm like, I've been doing that shit for 4 years, all right? So I was very comfortable with that. And then the next night was in Wasilla, which you guys can check it out for free in its entirety on the WrestlePro Alaska page. Mm-hmm. We had Gangrel against Joey Janela, Brian Myers against Fallah Bah, Dion Rusman, who's like their version, he calls himself the Iceberg, but it's like their version of Roman Reigns, the fan favorite up there. Mm-hmm. And now in April, they're doing a massive expansion tour, 5 shows in 10 days.
I do follow them, and I did see that. And as a fan, I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Hey, just be grateful that it's not 5 cities in 10 days. That was the original idea. The original idea was supposed to be in order: Homer, Soldotna, Fairbanks, Wasilla, and Anchorage. Unfortunately, we pulled out of Homer due to spacing issues and whatnot, so we're doing a double shot in Soldotna back to back, and in Fairbanks in the middle of the week. It's about a 9-hour drive from there. And then Anchorage canceled again, so we're doing a double shot in Wasilla. So 3 cities in 10 days, but 5 shows in 10 days.
Wow. Good luck with that venture. That sounds like a lot of fun, though. Could be an absolute amazing time. Uh,
It's a lot.
uh,
It's a lot of fun, and Alaska is an awesome experience. It's always been on my bucket list of places I've always wanted to go to, and the fact that I got to not only cross it off, but also add a little note saying "announced in Alaska."
yeah.
It's amazing.
Uh, how how does one get in contact with somebody in Alaska? They got phones there and shit.
Yes, they do. They got phones. They got phones there, or the Moose Express, whatever you want to call it. No, I'm just kidding. No, no. They had the promoter of WrestlePro got in contact with a promoter, like a entertainment promoter up there in Alaska, and that's how the whole connection started. It's called Power Plant Productions. That's the company that helps out with WrestlePro,
Nice.
and it's an amazing experience. And also, all 5 of those shows will be streamed for free on the WrestlePro Alaska page.
Really? Oh,
Yep, and for those out there that are interested, there's a donation link. A donation link. Every penny goes towards the locker room. It could be like $1, $5, 20, 100 if you're generous. As long it's not one of those if you donate you get to watch the events for free. No, it's not. It's you get to watch the events for free, but there is an option to donate, and it goes towards not only the wrestlers but also announcers and even our film crew that's flying from Philly to do this tour.
it sounds like such a big undertaking to do shows in Alaska like that. So again, my hats off to everyone involved up there at WrestlePro Alaska. I have been following it. I caught it maybe I want to say last year. I kind of ran into WrestlePro Alaska, and I've been following ever since. Good stuff. The last time, like you were saying, the Gangrel and the Brian Hawkins, that show specifically, I was watching. So thank you as a company for giving us that free product. That's amazing. I can't thank you guys enough for that.
Hey, and I think also I think his name was David Johnson. He's a PW insider. He actually gave his review on our event and actually said that our event was one of the top events to watch in 2020. And this is the guy who's done like Ring of Honor, WWE, and like other like major promotion reviews as well. The fact that he's saying that our show, an indie show, is on the same level as that, it's truly a huge honor, and it's amazing.
Uh, Great news. So glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Now, Mr. Peterson, again, we've talked so many different topics. I can't believe what we've stuffed in to this last hour, 12 minutes. Wow. Now, before we do let you go, is there anything that you would like to plug? You could plug anything you want. The platform is absolutely yours. You could do MMA, you could do wrestling, you could do your personal stuff. Whatever you got going on, where we could find you on the old social medias, anything. It's your platform, my friend.
All right. So on social media, you can find me on Facebook at Ryan Peterson. That's just me. On Instagram, you can find me at Wrestling MC. M as in Mary, C as in Charlie, all one word. On Twitter, you can find me at Ryan_MC92 at Twitter. You can also find me at many different promotions, including, as I stated earlier in the podcast, Ace Pro Wrestling, Creator Pro, WrestlePro, WrestlePro Alaska, Titan Championship Wrestling, Colossal Championship Wrestling coming soon, Upper Limit Wrestling coming soon, Invictus Pro Wrestling. A lot of breathing room there. And the list goes on and on. Reality Fighting MMA, North American Grappling Association, and so on and so forth.
Thank you for sharing all that info. Boys and girls, get on the old keyboard, get on the old smartphone and start typing that stuff in. Check out some new stuff if you haven't heard any of these guys and girls. Always worth checking out new promotions and new talent. That's what we love about this show, is spreading that network of talent. Mr. Peterson, a fine conversation we had tonight. And I want to thank you so much for setting some time aside to talking to us, the fans. I do appreciate it, sir.
And I appreciate you having me on here. Like I said, I've been a big fan of your works for a long time, and the fact that we were able to make this happen, it's a blessing. And And like you said, maybe we can do a follow-up in a few months or so?
Mm. I also do some other stuff on the side. I may be hitting you up for uh, involving roundtable stuff. I do fan roundtables. I take roundtables. I do promoters. I do female wrestlers. You name it. I'm bringing on PWZ podcast, hopefully in the near future, as a roundtable. I've got some ideas that maybe I might shoot your way to see if you'd like to be part of.
Hey, send them my way, and we'll discuss.
That would be amazing. Fine conversation, hanging out like a couple friends, talking wrestling. That's what we like to do on Stirring the Pot. This is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Ryan Peterson. Hold the phone. F that intro, and I'm not even editing it. I'm not doing nothing. I always keep raw tracks. I've been wanting to ask you one favor before you leave. We do this with Mr. Matt DeCourt. We don't like to call him a circus monkey, but we kind of utilize him as a circus monkey because he has such beautiful pipes as an announcer. Is there any way before you go that we could get an announcement from you? Could we do that, sir?
All right.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. What were you gonna say, man? Go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
It's for somebody very specific, though. It's not even me.
Oh no.
Okay. Now, do you know who Hamlet Hershey is?
Oh, of course I know. I know Mr. Hamlet Hershey.
Don't say the T. He'll be very mad. Hershey. I have a beautiful autographed mini Yorick, if you will. Now, Yorick is a two-time former Stirring the Pot champion. Okay? We have this beautiful belt. I'm part of Center Ring with the Fogman and Hoggy Hog. We call him Hoggy Hog. And he made this for my birthday a couple years back. So we use it as a 24/7 championship. It's a lot of fun. So,
oh boy.
With all of that being said, Yorick is the former two-time Stirring the Pot champion. He just lost this championship about a month ago. So I'm very sad for Yorick. Is there any way you could announce Yorick as the former two-time Stirring the Pot champion, hailing from the DK Wasteland, weighing in at my amazing $128? Is there any way we could get that announcement out of one Mr. Ryan Peterson?
You know what? Why not?
Yes!
Why
not? Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
No problem. All right, so let me know when you're ready.
Whenever you're in the zone, my man, I will hush and you take over.
Ladies and gentlemen, hailing from the DK Wasteland and weighing in at 128 pounds, he is a former two-time Stirring the Pot champion. This is Yorick!
You are amazing, sir. Thank you so much for that. That was so much fun.
Was that good for you, or was that a good intro? Or
that was great for me. Was it good for you? I might need a cigarette after that. That was good stuff.
I might need a cigarette.
What fun we had today with one Mr. Ryan Peterson. Yorick, did you? I mean, come on. He did. Never mind. That was really, really fun. Thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm glad to have done it, and it's a lot of fun. I love
it. What a great way to end. This is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, one Ryan Peterson. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Don. I really appreciate it.